had such potential, but then again, all good things must come to an end.
What's up, my Wizards Dev? SBMTG down there. We got decks and stuff. We're on YouTube. Usually we have decks. Today, the second and final installment in the What's Rotating series. You know, we looked at gold, artifacts, and lands last time. Check that out if you haven't seen it yet. Or just stick with us for this video where we just talk about all 5 colors and what's rotating. That'll probably be a little bit of a longer endeavor, but we'll see. Let's go ahead and try to make it through as we go through white, blue, black, red, and green and see what exactly we're losing and how it's going to impact the format going forward. Let's start with white. White doesn't actually lose that much out of cons of Tarkir. Loses a ton of stuff out of favorite forwards. So let's look at cons first. I think the most important thing we lose out of that is Wingmate Rock. It's a really good top of the curve card for the Abzan decks, you know, in the last couple of years. It makes the deck go from like a ground-based deck to a flying-based deck. You got 2, 3, 4 flyers, and if you busted a hangerback walker, you've got 2 or 3 of those flyers too, so you can finish off in the air for like 9 or 10 damage some of the times. That's ridiculous, and this card helps you stabilize and gain a bunch of life back too. Sometimes you can swing and gain as much as 5, 6 life, depending on what your hangerback walker token game looks like. So, card has just been really, really good at the top for those decks. And a couple of other things. The card has gone down so much in price in the last 6 months or so that it's inviting to play in like a budget white aggro, for instance. So, card has a couple of different homes and is just ludicrously powerful for what it is, honestly, and it's going to suck to see it go. For a lot of people, some people might really like that this card leaves, because it is really annoying to play against, but card has so much value printed on it that I'm going to be really sad to see it go. Also out of cons of Tarkir, and there's really not much, but gotta talk about this Seeker of the Way. Sorry, Jeskai aggro players, which are still a thing, by the way, with Jeskai Charm, Storm Chaser Mage, Monastery Swift Spear being in the format. Like, Jeskai aggro is still very much a thing at the local level, even if it's not in sort of, big league play or whatever. People are really going to miss Seeker of the Way, and it's even popped up in black-white decks that are listed as control decks, And I can see why, at certain turns you remove a creature and you swing in for 3 lifelink. Even if you lose the Seeker, you gain the life. That's pretty good, and often you're just looking to trade anyway. So this card helps you get a little bit deeper in the game in some decks, and can just help you really put the game out of reach in the more aggro-based decks too. So Seeker of the Way, gonna miss you. To go with Seeker of the Way, the last card from cons I want to talk about for white is Defiant Strike. Card was much, much more popular when Heroic was in the format, just a standout card in that deck. But it's still important in the Jeskai aggro decks. People really like this card a lot. 1 mana, cantrip is awesome, and activates prowess, gives your creature a buff outside of the prowess, so sorry, Defiant Strike. I'm not going to talk about it too long, but it does suck that you're leaving. As far as Fate Reforged goes, however, we lose an awful lot of good white cards, starting with Rally the Ancestors, which I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to be happy to see go because the last few months has been dominated by this card. It's risen slowly through the ranks since Theros rotated to now become probably the best deck in the format, the 4-color version of it at least. Especially since, Zulapur Cuthbert and Antuco Husk came out in Battle for Zendikar and Origins respectively. The card has just gotten much, much, much better and has formed the basis of probably the best deck in the format. So, we lose an entire deck and probably the deck. So where do we go from there? There's still some slight graveyard recursion things. We'll still have like March from the Tomb, but just nothing compares to Rally as far as cards we might get. Although Shadows of Innistrad is going to be in some ways graveyard based. We'll see what we get, but it's probably not going to be on the level of an instant speed Rally the Ancestors. Just people are going to miss it, and people are going to hate it. Let me know how you feel in the comments, how you feel about this card leaving the format, because honestly, I call this a mourn rather than a celebrate, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to celebrate this card's passing. Something else that I'm a little upset about leaving, but again, people might like, is Soulfire Grandmaster. A lot of people don't like being turtled out of the game in Dark Jeskai by a Soulfire Grandmaster that's playing the same, Wild Slash over and over. Sometimes a Jeskai Charm over and over, People, the second or third time that happens, by the way, you usually scoop the game. It's more or less out of reach at that point. But Soulfire Grandmaster is just, look at all the value and all the amazing words printed on this card. We're not going to see another card like this for a long time. You buy back burn spells, and just really anything. You buy back any spell. I brought back Dig Through Time a few times with this thing. The card is absolutely phenomenal. Giving, your Wild Slashes and your Draconic Roars, especially lifelink. is just unfreaking believable, and I'm just going to miss so much about the card. It's very, very efficient, super high value, and I'm going to miss you, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people hate you, Soulfire Grandmaster. Another thing we lose is Monastery Mentor out of Favorite Forwards. This is a great card, and we'll still see play in some Eternal formats, don't get me wrong, but really going to miss playing it in Standard. Really easy way to go wide. It's going to hurt the tokens-based decks if this card is no longer in the format, although they'll probably survive. They also lose Hordling Outburst, but they'll probably survive. But in any case, Monastery Mentor, just premium creature, easy to remove, sure, but just in that way it's very balanced. So I don't think anybody hates playing against Monastery Mentor. It's just a really high value creature that actually seems fair for once. So, gonna miss you. Last creature I'm gonna miss is Aire Cleric. Just sideboard staple, really, really helps against all the aggro decks. Although, with the Tarka Red exiting the format, which it certainly is, I just don't know how much aggro is going to be important. We may see the landfall deck rise a few pegs on the aggro ladder. We'll see. Just again, see it in like almost every sideboard that carries white and is just a premium creature against aggro. So gonna suck to lose one of our sort of safety valves against those decks. Maybe what I might miss most in white, which is crazy that I'm saying that, but looking at all the cards I've listed, this might be it. Valorous Stance is exiting the format. I've already talked about how we're losing a bunch of cards that help us take care of big creatures. We're losing this, we're losing Crackling Doom, losing Disdainful Stroke, we're losing Abzan Charm. There's just so many ways of taking care of huge guys that we are losing. And Valorous Stance is one of those. Not only that, but it feels like an honorary charm because it allows us to choose between a couple of different options, And that other option, the indestructible option, is always very, very good too against mass removal, against spot removal, and combat. There's so many uses for Valorous Stance, and the card still sees a lot of play, so it's just really gonna suck not having you around, man. I'm a nerd for removal. I love good removal, and this is one of the best pieces actually in kind of the whole format. So we'll see what happens when it's gone. I'm not looking forward to it. That's all of white. White actually, it loses probably more than almost anything else. White and red, I think, loses, especially red, loses a lot in the upcoming rotation. We'll see what it gets to replace it. I'm not too sure. Obviously, nobody is. But white loses a ton of really important standard staples even, including Rally the Ancestors and Valorous Stance, Soulfire Grandmaster, Aire Cleric, and sideboards, just Wingmate Rock, just a lot of really good standard staples. So white is going to have to shift drastically to be an important color, but we'll have to see what it gets. We'll have to see what it gets. On to the blue. Blue actually doesn't lose that much, but the cards it loses are really, really impactful on the format, namely Dig Through Time. I'm actually really, really sad to see this card go. And again, it's got its detractors, and I understand that. But once this leaves the format, we really aren't going to be playing it in Magic anymore, other than on the Commander EDH level. It's banned in pretty much every, format that people play. Every Eternal, that's the word I'm looking for, format that people play. So this card more or less bows out of Magic after it leaves the format. And it's one of the best card selection pieces we've ever seen in 20 plus years of Magic. So, and that much is evidenced by the fact that it's banned in most Eternal formats. So, just sucks that this card is leaving because it's probably maybe in the top 5 cards in Standard, just for pure value, what it does for you. For often only 2 mana, you get the 2 best cards out of the top 7. I mean, that's just freaking unbelievable, and we won't, Blue won't have a card draw engine on par with this for a very long time, if ever in Standard, ever again. So I'm really, really sad to see Dig Through Time go. It sucks. I love the card a lot. Can't talk about Dig Through Time without talking about Treasure Cruise. This card's also gone, and that's also terrible. I mean, the Sphinx's Tutelage deck is really going to mourn the loss of this card. I know a lot of people love Tutelage, and what's it going to do without Treasure Cruise? This is probably the best card in that deck that draws cards, and just, it's gone. And it's not as impactful as, Dig Through Time, but it's another card that's been banned in Eternal formats. It was banned before Dig Through Time. So I just really hate that it's also leaving. We just won't have all the options we need to draw cards in blue. We have like Anticipate and Ugin's Insight and not a whole lot else. So help us out with that, Wizards. We need some things because these, both these leaving are just incredible tools, and it sucks. We're losing Disdainful Stroke, you guys. Disdainful Stroke has even seen a lot of main deck play ever since it first came out. A lot of big creatures are important. Even way back in Theros block when green-red, just huge threats, was probably the best deck in the format for the last 6 months or so of that format. So, Disdainful Stroke has been an important card for a long time, and is still important nowadays. So, again, something that takes out not only huge creatures, but in this case, huge things, period. Planeswalkers included, enchantments, whatever, what have you. So, this is, the counterspell game is going to have to ratchet up, although we keep Clash of Wills, we keep Scatter the Winds, we keep Void Shatter. There's some things that we have. But this is just a really important piece, especially out of most sideboards. So, we've got to get this card back. Reprint this card in the future. Good news is, that's all the Khans of Tarkir stuff that we lose as far as blue goes. As far as Favorite Forged goes, we don't really lose like hardly anything. The only thing I can think of really is Frostwalker, which sees sideboard play. And that's about it. Just Favorite Forged doesn't contain that much blue that I care about losing. So that's a plus. All in all, blue does not lose that much. But again, it loses Dig Through Time, which hurts so bad. It loses Disdainful Stroke, that sucks too. But losing Dig Through Time is really the biggest blow to blue. It's one of the defining cards in the format and one of the big reasons to even play blue other than Jace. So people are still going to play blue because Jace, but not having Dig Through Time to recast is going to be a serious problem. So help us out, but remain hardened, blue players, and be discouraged, people that hate blue, which there are an awful lot of. Because blue might still be a thing in the format. It just really doesn't lose much at the end of the day. On to black. Black, again, only loses a couple of key cards. People are talking about black is going to be terrible when the format rotates. But, you know, if we're not talking about gold cards, just these solid black cards, we're not losing a whole lot. But there are some impactful things. Out of Khans of Tarkir, we lose Murderous Cut, which is maybe, possibly, the best removal piece in the entire format. Just the best piece of single removal, at least. So, Murderous Cut often cast for 1, sometimes 2 mana, yes. But just absolutely an all-star card and usually sees 2 of play in decks that carry black because you can't not play the card. Just amazing, beautiful spot removal that can be played for very cheap at instant speed. What are we going to do without Murderous Cut? Something else we lose out of Khans is Despise, which doesn't see all the play, but it does occasionally see main and mostly sideboard play. Gonna suck to lose it, you know. We're a creature-based format more than ever nowadays, so Despise can sometimes take the place of Duress depending on what local metas look like. Usually Duress sees more main and sideboard play on the pro level, but Despise is still a very important card for a lot of players that aren't going to any longer have an option to just take the best thing creature out of their hand on the first turn. That's going to hurt. I'm not going to lie. But, you know, didn't see all the play or anything, but Despise, hopefully they'll reprint this soon enough because the card has a place in any standard format. Last thing I want to talk about, it hasn't seen much play, or at least in Khans of Tarkir, last thing I want to talk about. Doesn't see much play, honestly, and really hasn't ever, to be honest. I don't know why. Blood-Soaked Champion is leaving the format, a favorite of brewers everywhere, and really good in Black-White Warriors, has been good in any recursion-based decks, you know, sacrifice-based decks, even though it doesn't see any play in the standard, you know, the Aristocrats-type builds. It started to when those decks first came out, but really has dropped off from seeing play in those decks ever since then. And Aristocrats is still probably going to be a thing, even though Rally leaves, but I'm getting ahead of myself. This card is just fantastic, right? I mean, you read it, and of any skill level, you think, oh, this card is a 1 mana, 2 power guy, that's fairly rare. It can come back for you over and over, that's fairly rare. Just everything about the card's good. So I know a lot of people are going to just have their heart broken when Blood-Soaked Champion leaves the format, because it's won a lot of games for a lot of people and has a lot of fantastic synergies to boot. So, bye. As far as Fate Reforged goes, definitely the most important thing we're losing in Standard is Tasigur as far as Black goes. The card will live on in Eternal formats. People still play it in Modern. Very, very important card there. But in Standard, it's going to suck to lose it, mostly because it makes Dark Jeskai. It pops up in a lot of Abzan builds and other decks too. So Tasigur is just an unbelievable card that's often played for 1 mana, is a huge body, and can get things out of your graveyard for you. Just Tasigur... you know, at the end of the day, I'm actually going to be sort of happy to see the card go, even though I've played him in a lot of decks. Sultai mages love him too, you know, and there's a lot of Sultai mages out there. They've been pushed into the underground, which is fitting for the flavor of the guild, but in any case, but they've been pushed to the underground. Sultai has not really been the thing that it should have been, and Tasigur goes a long way towards making Sultai an important deck that it should have been, but it really popped up in a lot of other things, you know. But sorry, Sultai players is all I'm getting at. But you know, Tasigur will live on. We'll see him in other things. But just the standard all-star that he once was, he can be no longer. And I do mourn that. Only other thing we really lose, we do lose Gurmag Angler, but that's more of a modern card and a pauper card, really, than anything. So, Gurmag Angler we're losing, you know, whatever. Doesn't see much standard play. But the only other thing we're really losing out of Fate Reforged, I want to point out at least, is Crux of Fate. Again, doesn't see much play anymore. Saw a lot of play before better options came out, you know. Once Languish came out, Crux of Fate stopped seeing as much play. But it'd be nice to have Crux of Fate in the upcoming format that may be even more focused On Dragon, sure, we lose Kolagon, so Black-Red Dragons might not be a thing. We lose Silumgar. But there's still a lot of important Dragons and Dragons of Tarkir that are going to form the basis of a few decks, I would imagine. I think Dragons we have not heard the last of. So it'd be nice to have Crux of Fate around. We don't, which, by the way, only proves my point about Dragons maybe being important when the format rotates. Maybe. We'll see. But Crux of Fate is a very good, cheap, budget piece of removal on the mass level that people really like to play, and just I have to eulogize it, sucks you're leaving. That's all the black. So black really doesn't lose as much as people are saying that it loses. It loses some important cards that it has representation in gold. Yes, Siege Rhino, Anafenza, Utter End, Abzan Charm. So yeah, black, as far as gold goes, it's losing a lot of things. Mostly Abzan colors are. But black, as far as just solid black, only loses really Tassiger and Murderous Cut are the most important cards. So black, especially considering Innistrad is probably going to have some pretty decent black cards, as I've mentioned. Black is probably still going to be a really important color. Now, though, we're into red, and red loses bukus of things as far as I'm concerned. Let's look at Khans of Tarkir first. We lose Monastery Swiftspear. Boom. Again, the card will live on forever in Eternal formats. The card is very, very important. Even in Legacy, the card is amazingly good. So we'll definitely see this card all over the place, and get your copies together now, because after they leave the format, this card will probably jump up in price in the next year or two. Mark my word. But Monastery Swiftspear, just its exiting kills mono red aggro, kills a Tarkir red. We may see a Goblins deck or maybe a Landfall deck pop up, but even the Goblins deck and the Landfall deck not having Monastery Swiftspear is a huge blow to their speed. This is just the best one-drop we've maybe ever seen in the history of Magic. Let me know. I mean, it could... That might be a fair assessment. So this leaving the format is just enormously impactful. And we'll see where we go from here. Just aggro is nowhere near as good as it once was, because what's the best aggro one-drop in the format now? Crickets? I've already mentioned this, but red loses Hordling Outburst, which isn't like incredibly important, but it's sort of important. This is one less good target for Goblin Dark Dwellers. The Goblins deck itself just isn't as good anymore. Tokens decks aren't as good anymore without this card. So there's definitely reasons why this card is impactful in exiting the format, but it's not as important as it once was. But still, I'm going to miss it. I really, really, to this day, after 2 years of playing it, I'm a very heavy red aggro player because it's a cheap deck and I'm a poor man. So I'm going to miss Hordling Outburst like a lot. The card has single-handedly won a lot of games, whether I was attacking with it, getting buffs off of other cards, and attacking with 2 or 3 power Hordling Outburst tokens, or just impact trimmers, just so many good things. And it sucks you're leaving, buddy. I'm going to miss Hordling Outburst so much. We're losing Sarkhan the Dragon Speaker, just a really good, solid, red planeswalker, Don't want to talk about the card too much, but he kills creatures, he becomes a huge, hasty dragon, just... Card is good, and sometimes sees, one-of play in certain decks in the format, but, it's not as important as he once was, and really never reached, truly important status for more than, a couple of months, really. But just will be missed, and I wanted to devote some time to him here. Fate Reforged also has a ton of red cards that we lose that are super impactful on the format. Temur Battle Rage, the first one I want to talk about. Temur Battle Rage is leaving. Just another reason that Tarkir Red is not going to be a deck anymore at all. Even though it keeps some pieces, it obviously keeps its namesake piece, Atarka's Command. But just, losing this, it loses a card in green I'll talk about in just a second. And it loses Monastery Swiftspear, so just can't even be a thing. Temur Battle Rage is such an amazing card, and just out of nowhere wins happen off of this, and it's gone. So, yay? I'm actually saying yay on that. Wild Slash is exiting the format. People are really starting to play Fiery Impulse over this anyway, but Wild Slash is still a fairly important card. Goes to the dome, is good against Planeswalkers. Just deal 2 to that Planeswalker and kill it, or just put it down to where I can attack into it and kill it. Just kills small creatures. It kills important creatures too. Jace, Soulfire Grandmaster, Monastery Mentor, lots of important creatures that it kills. So. Wild Slash, we lose yet another great piece of burn. We lost Lightning Strike, now Wild Slash, and I don't even know if burn is a deck anymore. We're losing Goblin Heel Cutter, which is really important for the Goblin decks. That card is fantastic and really good in a lot of red aggro decks, period. You even see a Tarkir Red play this from time to time because it's such an important piece. Dash, in general, is a good ability, especially for aggro decks that want to dodge removal. And it just sucks to lose Goblin Heel Cutter. Again, don't want to devote too much time to it, but yeah, Goblin Heel Cutter leaving is actually kind of impactful. And the last red card I want to talk about is Outpost Siege. This is seeing some 1 and 2 of sideboard play, and really has since its inception. Both versions, or both Khans and Dragons options, are both very, very good on the card. And it's probably the best Siege by a lot. You know, Monastery and Citadel both see some occasional play. People like Palace Siege, yes. But this, to me, hands down best Siege. Is good in tokens decks, you know, and is good in mid-range decks. So it's just got all kinds of things that it likes to do. And I'm going to miss it an awful lot. Bye, Outpost Siege. You're a friend of mine. That's all of red. Does red survive? I honestly don't know. That is a ton of stuff to just be losing. And yeah, we've still got Thunderbreak Regent. We've got Draconic Roar. We've got all the landfall stuff in red. We've got, you know, Dragon Lord of Tarka. So there's, I mean, and that's, I mean, not the best thing I could have pointed out. There's still red cards. There's Oath of Chandra. There's Chandra. There's the other Chandra. There's still red cards, Goblin Dark Dwellers. But red just not at all the color it once was. And we're losing a lot of speed out of red if you didn't notice. So we'll see what happens. I don't know if they'll try to bridge that gap in Shadows of Innistrad or not. Last color here, we're in the home stretch, and that's green. Green does not lose much at all. Like, I'm totally serious here. Out of Khans of Tarkir, green loses Become Immense, the other thing that's important, along with Temur Battle Rage and Atarka red. So that whole trick, you know, Become Immense, Temur Battle Rage, totally gone. Don't have to ever worry about that happening to you in Standard ever again. That's pretty awesome. Thank God for that. Become Immense is just, it's an important card to highlight just for that reason. Just another reason Atarka Red is dead forever. But as far as other green cards out of Khans of Tarkir, Rattleclaw Mystic is probably the other thing that has a huge impact on the format. And although the card doesn't see all the play, and a lot of red-green ramp decks would elect to play spells that ramp them over Rattleclaw. Although some play Rattleclaw. Some play Rattleclaw, and the green-blue ramp deck that's becoming an actual thing in the format plays Rattleclaw. It may not be able to be a thing anymore after Rattleclaw leaves. We'll see about that. I'm not sure that deck exists anymore when Rattleclaw leaves. So that's going to be a pretty impactful card. And a lot of people got their Rattleclaws forever ago and have been using them the whole time. There's still, you know, relatively budget for what the card does, all the stuff the card does. So just, you know, people are going to definitely mourn this. I don't think anybody loves that this card is leaving the format. I think more people are sad, myself included. I'm going to miss a premium piece of ramp, and those are also, just like Burn, good pieces of creature-based ramp are dropping like flies around here, so hopefully we'll get something that matches up to this. The only other thing out of Khans of Tarkir that I really want to point out is Aire of the Wilds. I feel like I'm missing stuff out of Khans and Fate Reforged. We'll get to that in a second for green. So I really don't feel like green loses that much. It's super impactful. Aire of the Wilds is just an occasional 3 or 4 of in decks that run green and want to go a little bit later into the turn cycle there, but really doesn't see all the play. Not really. It's just a card that I feel like is just impactful enough to point out, but I don't think people are going to miss it too much. I am. As far as Fate Reforged goes, we obviously lose Warden of the First Tree, which is really, you know, it still sees playing a lot of the Abzan decks. It's like a one-of in the Bad Company deck that we see in the format, but again, just won't be hugely impactful when it exits the format. Sure, it helps a lot of decks go long. It's got a lot of value on the card. Good, you know, top deck later on in the game. A lot of good things about it, but it's not like it's, you know, it drives the format or anything, but it's definitely worth pointing out. Gonna suck to lose Warden for a lot of decks, especially the Abzan decks. They're not even gonna be a thing anyway. You know, at the end of the day, I feel like it'll be like Warden never really existed. So I know a lot of people are happy that it's leaving. I know a lot of people are sad that it's leaving. Me, I'm sort of ambivalent. I could care less, but it is worth pointing out at least. And just to fill things out, if I had to pick another card in green from Fate Reforged that's leaving that might have an impact, it's probably Whisperwood Elemental, even though the card hasn't seen play in months at this point. I feel like, you know, budget Omnath players really like this. A great 5-drop for those decks. And even some decks that just want to go big enjoy this card. You know, there's some budget players that still like Mastery of the Unseen, and alongside this, you know, other morph creatures. So, you know, it just sucks that the card is leaving. It's a fan favorite. You know, a lot of people ask me, why didn't you put Whisperwood in this, you know, X or Y deck, you know? So I know that a lot of people love Whisperwood. I like Whisperwood too. I do. So it just sucks that it's leaving. But again, as far as green goes, I'll reiterate this one more time before we close it out. I just don't see how green is losing that much. That's all the coverage that I'm going to have as far as what's rotating. Both videos are done now. And if you want to know my honest opinion here, I think green loses the least, followed by blue, and then black really doesn't lose that much. White and red, especially red, they lose an awful lot of very key, important, even staple cards in the format. So we'll see how those colors recover when the next, you know, couple of sets come out. Really though, I think green is more or less unharmed by this rotation, so we'll see what happens with that. Even though blue loses Dig Through Time, definitely the best card in its cachet, it's still a very strong color that doesn't lose that much. That's all I got for now. Stay tuned, because now that I'm done with these videos, I can start doing, you know, putting out the videos on the Khans of Tarkir and Fate Reforged less decks. that I've been working on. I've got three that I'm working on right now, and more are going to be in the works very soon. And we got Shadows of Innistrad spoilers coming up, so stay tuned for all that stuff. Like, share, comment, and sub if you're new and you want to see all the stuff I just brought up. You should probably sub. I'll see you guys later. I'm probably running low on time, so I should get out of here. Thanks for watching, my wizards.